Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I am Nina Rodriguez, and this is Misfit to Teach, where I talk about all things teaching related and how to stay mentally, physically, and emotionally fit to teach. So if I have not met you already, please consider hitting the subscribe button below so that you and I can come together every week. Well, it's official. Our much anticipated contracts are finally in. And I think even as long as you do this kind of work, it's always a little bit nerve wracking to even see whether you're going to get a contract. So this is a really exciting time for us because it means that our districts love us enough to want us to come back, but it's also concerning, in a lot of ways. So this year, the contract looks really similar and straightforward from previous iterations of the past. It'll specify in most districts like the number of years you will have already worked. So for me, this, even though I'll be going into my 7th year of teaching, my salary and my contract is going to specify 6 full years of teaching, 10-month employee here in the state of Virginia. You're a school teacher for 10 contract months, and it specifies the dates our school year will start. So it'll be this upcoming school year. August 15th is when teachers go back, and then our last day will be June 8th 2023. So what made contracts particularly interesting this year was the fact that we were expecting substantial pay raises. This year they wanted to, I think, have a significant hike for several reasons. One of the reasons that I know of is that COVID really made teaching even more stressful of a career than it already was. With COVID, we basically, as educators, had to take on 2 forms. We had to learn how to be effective educators in the virtual space, and we also had to still have an in-class presence. And juggling those 2 different lifestyles, those 2 different ways of teaching, was tremendously stressful. It was enough to actually cause many teachers to leave the industry altogether, to just walk out on their contracts, sometimes mid-year. But another really big reason was to address the continuous demands that are being placed on teachers year to year, and to combat the rate of leaving the classroom. They wanted to do something that made education more enticing as a long-term career path. So in our district, they were looking at pay increases between 8 and 14%. So luckily this year, I can see for my offer, the pay increase is substantial, which, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely not complaining about. I'm very grateful. I work really hard, and I try to bring the best to my students every single day that we're in the classroom together. I don't know, though, that a raise in pay is going to address, though, some of the underlying issues that continue to plague education. So for me, one thing that I would like to see is a return to, especially in public schools, a return to the American field trip. Where we take the kids out of the building and we start getting back out into society and out into the community to get a more hands-on experience of what they're learning in the classroom. I've seen, and COVID didn't help, I acknowledge that, COVID was a really major hurdle for people for teachers and administrators to be able to take their kids out on field trips. But overall, across the board, I remember as a student coming up in public school that I went on way more field trips, pretty much at any grade level, than any of these kids are ever getting. Part of it is behaviors. We have significant behaviors that we have to manage day to day within our school, and the other part of it is just constantly trying to bridge this learning gap, whatever that means, and always having to take some kind of test in order to measure how far off base we are. And it's so discouraging because when we're constantly testing and constantly measuring, you start to find that actually there's nothing left to measure. and there's no change from measurement to measurement. That's really, really demoralizing, not just for teachers, but for the students who are having to take the tests. I feel like if we can return to a time where we are getting back out with these kids and taking them on class field trips, letting them engage with the community and see things that they otherwise would not have exposure to, that the learning would start to weave into that and secure itself in a child's brain much more than the worksheets and the technology and the spiral reviews and the after-school tutoring. All of those things are great, but if you can't get out and implement what you're learning, then are you really learning? Another thing that I would really like to see come back into the school system is actionable steps when it comes to effective classroom management and disciplinary measures. Look, it's 2022 as of this video. We're a very progressive, we've become a very progressive people in terms of mitigating our mitigation strategies with behaviors and how we correct behaviors. But sometimes you just have to hold the child's feet to the fire a little bit, for lack of better phrasing. It seems like every single time a kid does something downright crazy around here, we're ready to sit in and have like a hand holding session and talk them down with prizes and granola bars and hugs and high fives. Like, you know, if somebody is destroying a classroom, if a kid who's old enough to know better is tearing things up, whatever happened to handing that child a broom and a shovel and helping them work alongside the custodian to clean that mess up? I just think that if we can, as a society, go back to a time where it meant something to really correct a child's behavior and to let them know that certain things just don't fly in our community, that things would get better and teachers would be more apt to stay in the classroom regardless of a pay increase. And finally, like, one other thing that I noticed, like, you can increase somebody's pay all you want. If a teacher doesn't enjoy being there because they're micromanaged, no, they're really not going to stay. It's simply a matter of times when they're going to walk out on that position. And before that happens, I feel like teachers really need to be trusted in their profession to go about the business of teaching, not constantly being micromanaged, not having to do all of this professional development and accounting for their time and justifying through their lesson plans why we're doing the things we're doing and how we're doing it. Teachers really need to stop having to defend themselves so often and just be trusted to go on about the business of teaching these kids, because truly we do know them the best. And if that can happen, teachers would be much more likely to remain in the classroom year after year, stick out their contracts, and not have this wandering eye where we're wondering if the grass really is greener on the other side of the fence. So I've got my contract for this next upcoming year, y'all. And then I tell you, it's been a year. It really has. So I guess I'll go ahead and sign on. I'll sign on for another ride on the roller coaster. Let me see. I've already read through it and asked my questions and stuff like that. What's today? Okay, so this is their copy. This one is my copy. This will go home with me. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have been offered your first contract or your continuing contract for this upcoming school year, what you're looking forward to, any frustrations that you have, and how things are going in your district. But cheers to year number 7. Thank you so much for watching. Do all you can to stay fit to teach. Be well.